Okay, we're live. Hello, and welcome back to Book Chats with Mostly Books. I'm Jody,
I'm Aubrey.
and tonight we are talking about Malice by Heather Walter, which I think is going to be a really fun discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But before we dive in too far, why don't you give us a synopsis on this one?
Okay, so Malice is set in a world called Briar, and the main character is named Alice. And in her society, there are people called Graces whose blood is infused with fey magic. So they're humans who have access to a little bit of magic in their blood. And the Graces serve the society by making elixirs that help people be beautiful or good at music, etc. Alice is the Dark Grace. Her power functions a little differently because her heritage is a little different. And things start to get really interesting when she discovers a very long kept secret in a decaying tower on the sea cliffs by the ocean. And that's where I'll leave it.
I so enjoyed the end description. Really, that's exactly what it is. But until you said it like that, I was like, huh. Yeah.
The decaying tower part.
Yeah, by the ocean,
yeah,
on the seafront. I don't know, it feels like a poem.
On the seafront. I know, it's it's very high fantasy for sure.
Do you feel it is important that we say this is also a Sleeping Beauty retelling?
Yeah, I should have said that. It's a queer feminist Sleeping Beauty retelling. So there is a Princess Aurora. Mm-hmm. And should we say who the main character is a stand-in for in the traditional fairy tale? So the main character Alice is a stand-in for the evil sorceress who puts Princess Aurora to sleep in the original fairy tale.
Yeah. Now that being said, I personally have not watched Sleeping Beauty since very, very young.
Since you were 5.
Probably. I never liked that one.
Well, it's one of the worst rides at Disneyland for sure.
So I think it's safe to say that you can really enjoy this book and not being a Sleeping Beauty fan.
Yeah, I think so too.
I also never watched Maleficent.
I've seen snippets of it.
Okay, good. I'm I will not be able to comment on a lot of that part of this story.
Angelina Jolie's cheekbones kind of freaked me out on the poster, so I just didn't want to watch it.
I think that's totally fair. I feel like I should first ask you, did you like it?
I did like it. I did.
Me too.
I thought it was a slow build for me, as you know, because it had nothing to do with me getting 3 hours of sleep the night before at all. But I did kind of nod off a little bit in the first 100 pages, which you agree were a bit slower than the last 100 pages, for example.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So it was a slow build, but I think the payoff was really good, and I'm excited for the sequel.
I am also excited for the sequel. I also really enjoyed it. I did not have the 100-page issue, although I do agree.
Because you get a full night's sleep.
Yes, I did. I do agree that the first 100 pages are definitely kind of world building, setting up the character Alice, so that we're ready to go for the last of it.
And also she's a loner, and especially in the beginning, she has no allies in the beginning of the story, and so a lot of the narrative structure is like a bunch of paragraphs because she's by herself doing her errands and doing things. So there's not a lot of dialogue in the first bit of the book.
No, and there's not a lot of plot really either, because again, I feel like we're setting the stage for what's coming.
You can tell this is going to be a big duology for sure.
It also has a first-person perspective, which I haven't read in a fantasy in a long while, and I liked that, and I think for me was oh, this feels so different and refreshing for fantasy. So I think that helped with me not being slowed down in the beginning, and I thought her voice was just really stellar.
What did you like about her voice?
So I thought she's incredibly bitter and jaded and snarky.
She's traumatized.
Yes.
And she's angry about it, understandably.
I can relate to bitter and jaded.
You can relate to the evil sorceress?
Be warned.
Okay, we have new energy in the room.
So, and it was just, I, as many, love villain stories.
Yeah. Villains are way cooler than heroes.
Way cooler. You want to see how they became a villain, and this showed that really well.
Yeah, it really did. The arc was, maybe this is getting off topic, but the arc was really, really good. And we can, when we get to the spoiler section, we can talk about that more. This was one of the more believable villain origin stories that I've read in a long time, especially in fantasy. I know that there's a big trend for it in YA fantasy, and I don't think it's always handled well. It's not always believable. This one felt really believable, and we can get into why a little bit later.
I completely agree, and I think that's why I liked her voice. It was just so strong. She knew who she was. She knew the society thought of her, and she was going to tell you about it.
And I mean, fair warning for people who are thinking of reading this is that because the voice is so strong, and because she is kind of a traumatized, bitter, angry character, sometimes the vibe is not as uplifting as you might want it to be from a fantasy, or just from reading. So take that with a grain of salt if you pick this one up. It's fine. It's not super depressing, and I didn't, want to go jump off a cliff when after I read a few hundred pages. It wasn't like that, but there are some tough things, and even when the voice of the character is not describing tough things, there is still that undercurrent of bitterness. And I think sensitive readers should be aware of that.
I completely agree. There are probably a lot of triggers, honestly, in this book, so be warned. It's very dark.
It is adult fantasy. It feels a little bit YA, but it is adult.
And as viewers know, we tend to do really dark books for this book chat. I don't know why. It's probably me, really. Evidently. Okay, I might have a villain issue, okay?
We'll have to do like a Susan Mallory or something next.
Right? Something more uplifting.
Something with like beach sandals and like
pastel coloring.
A towel.
Yes.
On the beach.
We did Malibu Rising, and that still had dark trends too.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that out there, and that has all those things.
It does. I'm just giggling about it all.
Okay, anyway. Before we digress too far,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to talk about, specifically maybe with the writing?
The writing. I thought that the writing was very lush, and fit the genre pretty well. And I think this is a debut novel, and so I think when debut writers are writing with lush language, sometimes it can veer into a little purple. It can get a little like, you forced this, or like you're just living inside the fantasy in your own head, pretending you're wearing a gown and traipsing around the castle, and it feels a little silly. And I don't think that happened here. I think it was part of it had to do with it had lush language in short sentences. So the sentences were spare. Not to say that the writing is tight, because I think that some parts in the first 100 pages again could have been a little tighter, but I think that there are short sentences that for very lush language is actually spare as well, and so you don't get lost in these long fluffy sentences.
Agree. I didn't find it needed too much editing, but again, I didn't have the 100-page issue that you did.
Sorry.
So no, it's all good. I don't mind that at all. It's nice that there's different perspectives.
Yeah.
But I totally agree in the sense that yes, it's very descriptive, but she doesn't get you like bogged down in it to where you're like, oh my gosh, we spent 10 minutes talking about the curtains. Which I sometimes feel can happen.
Like, unless those curtains are really awesome and super enchanted, I don't need to know about them.
Exactly. Yeah. So her world is very rich and vivid, and you can see all of it. You
or
also continue to be moved forward. I like she keeps it going.
Yeah, it does push forward for being really, really obsessed with world building in the beginning. Things are pushed forward, and when I thought about it more, I thought, I realized that the time when the action started to pick up, it really couldn't have picked up earlier because there was so much groundwork to lay. And then it was really, really solid in the second half, and it was very readable, and I found myself really turning the pages very quickly at the end, and not just because I had to finish it for this talk, but because I was really enjoying it, and the pace picked up, and it like I said, it was a good payoff.
I completely, and like you said, you want to move on to the next book already.
Yeah, I do.
Which isn't out for like almost a year, like May 2022.
Is it? I thought it was February. I thought I saw.
Well,
at any rate, it's in 2022. And and we're sad.
I am sad.
We're sad about it.
Yeah.
I need to know what's I have like investments for what I need to have happen in the next book, which we can talk about later, but
Oh,
there are things.
yes.
I have a list. I have requirements.
Do you want to send them to Heather directly?
She's probably already written it, unfortunately. Whatever.
Let's talk characters. We've kind of talked a little bit about Alice.
Sure.
Do we also want to talk about her, I'm going to say it like this, fellow sisters?
Yeah, so Alice lives in a house dedicated to graces. So the way Briar, the kingdom, or actually it's a queendom.
We'll talk about that later.
But with some qualifiers, so we'll get into that later. But anyways, so in Briar, the city, basically, there are houses in the Grace district, this section of the city, and the different houses have several or multiple Graces living there doing their work. So you go to a particular Grace house to see a particular Grace to get a particular elixir that will get you whatever it is you're seeking. If you can pay for it. And so Briar lives in a Grace house that's one of the lesser houses. It's not as lucrative, it's not as large, and it doesn't have the same kind of prestige and standing that other Grace houses do. So of course everybody who lives there, except Alice, because she does not care, all the people who live there and the woman who runs the house, they want to elevate their status for sure. So anyways, there are 3 main Graces that she lives with. One named Laurel is a wisdom Grace, and then there are 2 other Graces, Rose and Marigold, and Rose is a beauty Grace. And is Marigold also a beauty Grace? She's kind of a minor character. She's like the wicked stepsister that nobody thinks about.
Totally agree with that statement.
She's super small as a character. It kind of annoyed me, to be honest.
I actually have no idea what her talent is or her Grace is.
Her talent is really like
being
to
mean.
back up Rose in everything mean that Rose wants to do. So
to be
Laurel is kind of like the sort of good stepsister, sort of, and Rose is the mean antagonist stepsister, who is, I would say, the chief antagonist for the first half of the book.
Oh yeah, she's head mean girl.
I mean,
Sure.
Alice has a lot of enemies in this book, but Rose is the one who like grates on you the most, of like, oh my gosh, please stop talking. Yeah,
Rose is a difficult character, and I want to talk about her more during spoilers, especially.
Let's do it.
She definitely pushes every button of Alice, and Marigold backs that every single time.
Yeah, that's what Marigold is for.
Sits there silently, looking at them.
As someone does if they're wise, apparently.
Apparently. And then the head mistress is, what's her, is it Miss
Lavender?
Is it just Lavender? Is that her name?
Lady Lavender, Mistress Lavender.
And my first impression
Old
of
Hag
her...
Lavender, I don't know. I didn't like her very much.
My first impression was actually, okay, maybe she's kind of trying with Alice and the girls and keeping them together. But she has this weird, like, we're a family, you're all sisters attitude. And it's not that dynamic at all.
No.
And I mean, initially I felt like she was trying to make that happen. And I was like, okay, maybe you're going to be a great person. But I don't know. I'm undecided on that one.
I think that Miss Lavender, Lady Lavender, we forgot. Lavender, who runs the house mistress, she gives off 2 different messages. So she has this vibe of, we're a family, you're sisters. It's like, okay, if that's true, then you're the mother and you need to be like helpful and emotionally supportive in at least some sort of way. But really, she does not behave that way. She functions more as this like mistress of a whorehouse who's basically thinking strategically about money and status and making the house be better. And that is her one singular goal. And so because of that, she's also very out of the loop with what the dynamic is between the Graces. So she has this clueless kind of vibe, but she's also kind of cutthroat business. And so she kind of is a confusing character.
Yeah, and I feel like part of that is because she has decided what she wants the dynamic to appear to her, and she's not gonna address it any other way.
And in that way, I think she was pretty realistic, because how many people have we met like that in our families, or in other people's families, where they decide, well, this is how it's going to be, and I'm just going to pretend like everything is the way that I want it to be, and I'm not going to be part of any of the conflict.
Yep, totally. Okay, because I want to talk about other things.
Okay.
So at this stage, I'm going to say anything you want to talk about generally before we spoil this book for everyone and ruin it.
I think you should read it.
Me too.
I think it's really good. I think that it's got a really good payoff and has a lot of really interesting things to say about the nature of freedom and exploitation, and bitterness and trauma. I think that is something that isn't always treated well, especially in fantasy, because in fantasy as a genre, whether it's YA or adult or even children's fantasy, a lot of really hard things happen to characters, and some authors don't really address realistically and from a place of emotional honesty the effects that these hard things would have had on a character. And so I think that this book does a good job of having a character who is likable and you root for her, but also she is realistically going through the after effects of having a traumatized childhood. And and I think I really appreciate that, and I think a lot of other readers will too, because it treats the reader with respect, I think. So that's one of the main things I have to say about it.
Yeah, I think everything you said was exactly on point. And I think everyone should go read this as well.
Read it.
I am not a huge fairy tale retell. Okay, this is silly. I'm not a huge fan typically of fairy tale retellings because I don't think they're handled very well.
That's true.
Now that being said, I also always still seek them out.
Because you just keep going back.
It's
you
silly.
just keep trying. It's like that ex-boyfriend. You just can't quite, like, maybe this time it'll be better.
Guess so.
Oh, he sent me a text. Okay.
But this
I'll try again.
I actually was really, really into this book. And
Yeah.
I thought she did it really well. And like I said, I am not a huge Sleeping Beauty fan, but this is making me look at this all over again. And like,
Well, Sleeping Beauty is such a hard fairy tale to like, especially in this day and age. It does not age well. And I mean, even when I was a lot younger and was just readily consuming all of the fairy tales, I didn't like Sleeping Beauty. It's no fun. She doesn't do anything.
Nothing. She sleeps.
Princess Aurora doesn't do anything, and the villain is the most interesting character because the guy, isn't he a huntsman? Or is he
I think he's a prince.
He's a prince?
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
he's a prince.
Again, I've not seen it.
He doesn't do anything either. He's super boring. So
Yeah.
it's a hard fairy tale to like, and it's really fun to see it treated in a really interesting way where you're intrigued by the characters.
Yeah, and it's really brought into this day and age as well, with all of its modernization, even though it's still obviously in the fairy tale realm. But there's a lot of really progressive things in it that I liked.
Yeah, yeah.
So go read this, then come back, watch this, because we are going to spoil it, and then you can decide what you think as well. And, of course, leave comments if you want. So, yes, take a moment. We're spoiling. Okay.
Okay. Whew. There's some stuff to unpack.
I know.
Where do you want to start?
I don't know. Okay.
Okay.
So a part of me kind of feels like maybe we go back to talking about the graces. Do we want to talk about the grace laws?
Yeah,
Like,
I
feel
need
like
to
that needs
talk
to
about
be
the grace
addressed.
laws. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Do you want to tell us what the grace laws are?
Okay, let's start ranting about the grace laws. So there are laws in Briar called the grace laws that govern how the graces behave in business and how their patrons behave in business. The first time we're introduced to the grace laws, we are told about the grace laws in the context of, we made these laws to protect the graces because what used to be happening was that people would take the graces sort of hostage and keep them in their house, like in a locked room, like in a closet, and force them to make elixirs because they need to use their blood. So you have to like prick a few drops of blood from their finger or whatever, and make these elixirs that would only benefit this one family. So we made these grace laws to make sure that didn't happen. That grace, anybody can get help from a grace as long as they can pay for it. But then it changes because we learn more and more about the grace laws, and you realize that it's not to protect the graces at all. That's the language that it's couched in, but really they are slaves. They have to work. They cannot just not be graces. They can't just like have this enchanted blood and live their lives and be like farmers or, authors, for example. They can't do that. They can't be advisors to the king, and they can't like work at anything other than being a grace.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot turn any customer away if the customer can pay. So anything that any customer wants, they have to give.
Yep.
And they also can't leave.
Ever leave Briar.
You can't leave. And that's couched in the language of, let's keep the graces here because we can protect them and provide for them. And no other country can do that. So you have to stay here so you can be safe.
Right.
So,
and on top of that, so they're already very much pinned in and caged here. And on top of that, they are also facing this point of time where they fade and they are no longer able to do their magic.
Right. So around the age of 30, the magic leaves their bodies and they are essentially like human living a normal lifespan, and so then they don't have any status at all. But they're cared for.
Yeah. They can either run a house or get married. Like literally that's it. Those are your options after you've done this huge service for your kingdom.
Yeah.
Whatever. I felt like that was such a very interesting comment on women in society in general and the way we're just always right?
Cash
right?
cow.
Yeah, totally. And I was like, yes. You just really drive this point home because I appreciated that.
Yeah. I thought it was a really creative way to talk about the way in which classes of people are exploited for sure. And I thought that, and the book didn't get into anything racial at all. It was more gender based because all the graces are female. But I mean, I think that there's a lot that is applicable to all forms of systematic injustice. Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very applicable.
Yeah. So, needless to say, there's a lot of pettiness because of this with all the graces, and they all are fearing the day where they're no longer useful.
Yeah, and it makes them desperate.
Yes. I mean, so...
Like it made Rose desperate, for sure.
See, going back to Rose, yes, exactly. I thought her character was very interesting because she is definitely a mean girl and a villain. But
for sure. For sure. She's not nice. I don't like her.
I kind of felt for her at a stage, because she starts taking the blood rot to try to thin her blood so that basically she won't fade faster.
So that it'll preserve the amount of magic and won't use as much of the magic that's in her each time she sheds a drop of blood. But it's also blood thinner, so the danger, of course, is that you could bleed excessively from any kind of injury, which, I mean, obviously happens.
It does happen.
To her, yeah.
I thought that was a really great moment for Alice and Rose, because Alice obviously is the one who saves Rose, because how could the story go otherwise?
How could it go otherwise? For sure.
And I really had hoped that would be a turning point, but at the same time I don't see how that could have ever been a turning point for the relationship, because Rose was the only kind of I don't want to say friend. She's not a friend, but the way her relationship with Alice was the only way it could ever be.
It was a dyad for sure. They were on two different sides of an argument from the beginning, but they had that attraction that anger and hatred really bring. So they definitely were a dyad in that house.
Yep.
But I see you were wanting it to be a turning point. I really respected the author's decision to have it not be a turning point.
Yeah.
Where Alice and Rose did not become like the best friends, because I think this happens a lot in children's fantasy where the bad person turned good because the good person helped the bad person, and now the bad person realizes they should be a good person, and
thorn in the paw.
Oh yeah, it's not a new thing for sure. Yeah, and that didn't happen this time. No. Rose was not. I mean, she had that recognition of everything, but that did not change her behavior moving forward.
And honestly, yes, I thought it'd be a turning point, but again, I don't think it could have ever gone a different way either. Yeah. Because I think that had it changed, I'd have been like, now it feels unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the ways in which I thought this was a really honest book. It's wildly high fantasy, but it's incredibly relatable in the way all the characters behave, for good or bad.
And they were all very flawed and very gray zoned, and I think that's also very true to life.
Princess Aurora, it's really hard when there are two R's so close together. Anyway, Princess Aurora was also not perfect too, and so there was no character that was just blandly good, which is a failing of many fairy tales.
Agree. Do we want to talk about Princess Aurora and Alice maybe a little bit more? Because I mean, most of the book.
Kind of the crucial point of the book. So
we should talk about that.
We should talk about that. Yeah.
I also want to start by saying that Aurora is also imprisoned in her own way. I mean,
Totally.
she is...
Every woman in this character, in this book, is trapped. Yeah.
Absolutely. So she's imprisoned in the sense that, she has to kiss her true love by the age of 21, otherwise she will die, as her two sisters have. She's the last heir. There's a lot of pressure on her. And then literally her parents are throwing guys at her to kiss. Just random dudes
she has to
all
kiss
day long.
Like
50 guys
50
in a day.
50 guys a day. Since she was really little. Yeah. There's so much yuck to unpack there. And, she has her own trauma. And because of, just being exposed to that. And I think that she deals with it in a way that is different from the way Alice deals with hers. But it still feels real and relatable. She is trying to break her own curse herself. Yes. I really like how because she pairs up with Alice to try to find a way to use Alice's more powerful magic to break her own curse herself without having to be kissed. And I really respected that about her. Yeah, she was like, I'm going to save myself. I am not going to wait for some guy. Yeah, she wants to be a strong leader, a strong warrior queen, like the first queen of the queendom was. Yeah,
she was really cool, by the way. The first queen,
super cool.
Liked her a lot.
Let's resurrect her and have her fix all the problems,
right? I also think we need to point out the fact that it is a kingdom law that Aurora can only kiss boys. Yeah. And that her only true love can be a guy that she's never met, that randomly kissed.
Yeah, which is super
Even
weird.
though previous queens have had their true love.
Yeah, it's common knowledge that...
Be women,
That other queens have had their true love be women.
So it's very interesting how this kingdom was initially designed by the original queen and how it's warped and, turned so ugly. From all the greed. And I kind of want to say the men, but that's just me because I was mad at a lot of the guys.
Well, there was not a single likable male character.
Exactly.
There wasn't one.
No.
And all the female characters are trapped and enslaved in the system, for sure. So, I mean, I can understand that. I think it's really interesting to me. I kind of have a little qualm.
Ooh, I love qualms. Go for it.
Okay. I'm ready. Okay, so I think this book has a lot of good commentary on society, our society at large. However, so this whole, queendom starts out with a strong warrior queen who then has some descendants, and somewhere down the line, these queens start giving their power away to their kings, to their king consorts, okay? And it starts gradually to the point where they're still technically by the time we get to Alice's time, they're still technically living in a queendom, but the kings have the power and the queen is just a figurehead. Now, if this book is trying to be commentary, there's a bit of victim blaming in that story that I'm not entirely comfortable with, because I don't think that the way the world ends up, patriarchy, is our fault. What do you think about that?
I agree. I had some major mixed feelings on this whole situation because part of me was like, no, I don't think they ever gave it to the kings. I think
Okay. So wait, do you think that the author thinks what you think, and she's just writing in a different way, or do you think that, or what?
I'm hoping.
Oh, you're hoping they'll discover something. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll find out that isn't really what's happening, that these queens aren't
that they didn't give it away.
Fawning at these guys that they've now fallen in love with.
Yeah, they make it sound like, they were so in love that they wanted to share their power or something.
Yeah, even though it does at one point when we get to this new king, it does kind of sound like that wasn't it at all. Like they were really almost being like, well, we'll only marry you if you give me something.
Yeah.
And so I'm not, anyway, I feel like I'm hoping in book 2 that we find out that the guys were there was some reason they were taking it.
Treachery.
And it wasn't like these queens giving up their power. Why would you give up your power like that? Rule equally, sure, if you don't want to have a consort.
Yeah.
Personally, I would not do that. But we already know
next time you inherit a throne, Keep that in mind. I'll remind you when that happens. I'll send you a text like, remember, don't give up your power.
Oh, yeah. And it's totally cool. My husband will be like, you go for that. I'll be over here. It's cool.
Perfect.
So I had a big issue with that because I don't understand how these ladies did this and why they made those decisions.
Yeah.
And now we have gone so far to where they're just a pretty figure again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it irritated me a lot.
Yeah, there's some murkiness there. I'm glad to hear that irritated you.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I don't know, I feel strange when I like a book so much, but then I don't like something about it. I think, oh, is this just me? Am I not on board? Is this wrong? So it makes me feel better.
We were texting about this briefly
we texted
beforehand, a little bit about this book, and this was what I almost spoiled for you because I was like, we have to talk about this.
Oh, I wondered. I was going to ask, what was the thing you almost spoiled?
Because I was appalled when I hit that point. You hit it pretty early in the book, and you're just like, I have to read it again. I was like, there's no way. There's no way you would give up all of your power.
Oh, interesting, because I didn't have that reaction. I just thought, oh, that's sad. And then, like, as I was reading it later on, I was like, hey, I don't like that.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to topic. Aurora and Alice.
Oh, right. We got super off topic. Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like maybe we should briefly say something else if we need to about them. But I also feel like we need to really tackle the big twists and turns and the character we haven't even mentioned yet.
Oh, right. Yeah. And also we haven't even talked about why Alice is more powerful than the regular Grace is.
I know, right? Okay, so...
A little disjointed. Sorry, everyone.
It is a little disjointed, but that's because there's a lot that
there's
happens
a lot to unpack. I mean,
in this book.
It's like almost 500 pages, you all.
Mm-hmm. And and there's a lot of things. Okay, well, briefly, is there anything else you want to talk about with Alice and Aurora specifically?
I want to know what you think about, like, okay, so obviously in any good story, there are going to be forces that try to tear people apart. I want to know if those forces were not there, do you think that they would make it long term?
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard question. I mean, there was an instant, like, attracted to each other-ness.
Yeah.
But do they have the stuff to make it last? Oh, I don't know.
Or, like, what would need to happen to make sure that they could make it last?
I want to say that they would, because Aurora was already valuing her and her opinions and thoughts and wanted to move her into, like, high council already. So it was obviously more than just an attraction. Yeah. This was definitely built on respect and friendship.
Yes. At least on Aurora's side, for sure.
Yeah.
And there is some of that with Alice, where she respects Aurora's vision and ability to rule and wants to get Aurora on the throne.
And she wants to back her on that throne, for sure. I don't know. They're also very young.
They're 20.
So it's hard to say, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to root for love. What did you say?
Whatever. Love. No, I think, well, we don't get Aurora's perspective because it's, first person from Alice's perspective. I think that Alice has a lot that she needs to work on before she could be there for Aurora, because she does respect Aurora. She wants to get her on the throne. She believes in her wholeheartedly and thinks that, and is pleasantly surprised by how real Aurora is and how irreverent she is. She loves her irreverence, which makes sense because Alice is super bitter about everything. So any irreverent person, you're like, hey. But I mean, Alice needs Aurora to love her because she has never experienced love from anyone, or even respect from anyone, which is why she got totally enthralled by this other character we haven't even talked about.
But we're coming to next.
But we will get there. And I think that neediness is would forever prevent her from truly engaging in relationship, which is why she keeps secrets from Aurora, because she doesn't want to lose Aurora's good opinion because she needs it so much. And so I think that Alice would have to really go through a lot of grounding and, like, valuing herself and moving past the wounds that she has in order to be functioning in that relationship. And if she didn't do that work, I don't think that it would last.
I think everything you said is very fair point. I think you're right. She's gonna have to come through all of that baggage and come to like more or less love herself before she can be a person
she has to
be another person in a couple.
Yeah, because she really has a horrible sense of self-worth. She is always thinking, I am a monster, I am this awful thing that they think I am, and she also, we can get to this later as how it relates to the ending, but she always has an impulse to want to be as monstrous as people think she is because she's so angry.
Yes.
You know.
Well, when you hear that from day one, it's understandable
totally.
why she has the baggage she has.
Totally.
But yeah, I think you're completely right. She has to get through all of that in order to become a person who can function in a relationship. And in that sense, yeah, it probably won't last, unfortunately, because that's a lot of work that Aurora and her would have to do.
So much work.
And it doesn't...
And if you have this love from Aurora, like what is going to motivate you to like do this really hard, icky, yucky work? Although maybe that love sort of could, but it's hard.
And I think that first time of feeling loved also is, like you said, with all the neediness, it has its own baggage because it's the first one.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's already spoiled.
Yeah, I get that.
But that's not to say that it couldn't last.
They just have to do a lot of counseling.
Exactly. And like that's the thing in fantasy is that there are no like royal therapists.
Where is that character?
Because
right?
they all need one. Every fantasy, every character needs a royal therapist.
There's always a lot of trauma.
Like we don't need the royal astrologers. Not to knock on astrology, but like they also need a royal therapist.
Maybe both.
For sure.
Yeah.
They can work in tandem.
I agree.
That's a thing.
Okay, so I kind of feel like before we end this and eventually end this, we need to talk about Alice's heritage and the other character.
The other character.
So,
it's weird that we haven't got there yet.
Well, there's just a lot, guys.
It's a lot, y'all.
So, Alice is not, and this also actually irritated me that they call them the light fae.
Oh, like as opposed to darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got so sorry.
You're in it. No, I love it. Keep going.
I don't know why that distinction just really pushed every button every time they said it.
Let's unpack it. Let's have a therapy for Jody session. Why does that bother you so much? Where do you think that comes from? Is it from childhood?
Maybe, but we won't focus on that. So at any rate, she's not light fae. She's not light fae. She's not from. Is it Etheria? How did you say
Etheria?
it? Etheria. So she's not from there. She is from.
Which is the place where like the fae live, and just imagine Legolas, and that's what we're talking about. It's where they live.
Exactly.
Except the guy who was like also an elf but had the staff, and he was actually Agent Smith in that guy.
In
that guy.
Yeah.
We're talking about people like that.
And I actually think more like that guy as the ambassador.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Anyway, so the light fae went to war with, did you call them Villa? I called them Villa. Or are they Vila? Vila?
I thought they were either Vila or Villa, but there was only one L.
I know, right?
So I think it's Vila.
I think you're right too, but I liked mine better.
Okay.
So,
we can just call them all three, just interchangeably, and confuse everybody. It'll be totally fine.
No, I think you...
Vila. So
Vila?
pronounce it however you want.
Vila, is that what you said?
I say Vila.
Vila. I think you're right, because there's only one L. So,
right.
The Vila went to war with the Etherean, and so...
And the Vila,
there was a big war.
But the Vila are like the more monstrous magical creatures.
They have the shifters, they have the demons, and I guess the demon supposedly is what created them.
Yeah.
That whole thing with the whole backstory. Anyway, it sounded like they were also stronger.
Yeah.
And I think that was interesting because that, is interesting how that changes the history because they supposedly lost from the Etherean.
Yeah, it's like, how did they lose then?
Yeah, because they were really quite powerful. And it seems like the Etherean, as we keep digging deeper into this history, were quite jealous of the power that the Vila have. Yeah. Because they were like kind of going over to that side.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Alice is Vila. And can I say the other thing too? I guess so.
She's also a shifter. So she's half shifter, half Vila. So she is full-blooded Malteran, which Maltera being the region from which all these other magical creatures hailed from. So she's not human in any way, but she looks human because she's half shifter, and shifters look human. Ish.
So obviously she's going to be an amazing character because of all of her heredity. Or like,
Obviously.
you know, like I'm just so excited to see where she goes from this point, especially once we hit the end. So anyway,
She's a lot.
so she was the only one. They keep saying this over and over. The only Vila left, and so they obviously hate her because she's this monster and this terrible creature.
Yeah, and
then,
great pains are taken to help us make sure that she is not beautiful.
Yeah,
That she looks ugly, apparently, except that we don't really know what she looks like. So I'm like, maybe she's just not ugly at all, but people think she is.
I am also curious about that. All we know is that her veins are green
Because she has green blood.
She has very thin, dark hair.
And I'm like, okay,
right?
how does that equal ugly? It doesn't.
I still think that because she's a shifter, and they say that you kind of take on the resemblance of what you see, so she kind of looks like her mom.
And you also shift according to your need.
Yep. And I also feel like she has internalized all of this hate around her.
Yeah.
And so because of this, she has shifted into what she thinks is an ugly, monstrous look.
It's like the internalized, like the self-hatred.
But I'm not convinced that's so true because
Not
Aurora,
convinced.
obviously.
Aurora loves her and
her.
says you're beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It
Beauty doesn't matter. Let's not talk about beauty anymore. Who cares?
It doesn't matter. We don't really know what she looks like. It's very interesting. Anywho, the whole point of this is that we got to get to that other character.
Oh my gosh. We're still not even there, y'all. Okay.
So she goes into the dark, creepy
It's
tower.
the thing she finds in the tower that we talked about a long time ago.
And who is the thing in the tower?
Okay, it's a person named Cal who has been imprisoned there for like hundreds of years, we're thinking.
Oh, at least, especially
Like,
at the end.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a shifter and he has a very long lifespan anyways, right? It's not like the curse is keeping him alive. It's he would,
he would be
he
alive
would have
anyway.
lived a long time. So he's imprisoned in this tower by a curse, and he's surrounded by like shadows that are kind of like also his like shackles.
Yeah. I loved actually those parts.
I thought it was pretty cool.
That was amazingly cool, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Court of Thorns and Roses, how Reese's shadows like kind of like
There's been a couple moments I was like, oh, this really reminds me of that.
yeah.
Anyway.
Whatever. Go read that series. It's great.
Yeah. Side tangent. Yeah. Anyway, so Cal. So she befriends him, I guess, more or less. Like
Yeah, because he's this... See, I wanted to get into this with you about why she trusts him.
I don't know.
Well, I have ideas.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay, so he's this guy named Cal who, first of all, alleges to have known her mother. And she doesn't know who any of her parents were because she was, like, found as a baby way back in the day, which is, like...
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little lazy because that happens in too many fairy tales, but whatever, we'll put that aside.
I will agree with that, too.
I'll put that aside, like, oh, sure, you were found as a baby. Oh, okay. Conveniently, you don't know your parentage. Conveniently, we'll find out later.
And conveniently, this dude trapped in a tower knows your mom.
Right, and it's like, probably the person you're talking to is your dad. But that's not, actually, it wasn't that way.
It wasn't, but I totally thought that for a while.
Totally, because it's a trope. It's a trope. Anyway, moving on to Cal. So... Cal has been imprisoned, and I lost my train of thought because we started talking about all the things I hate about things.
So the question was, why do we trust Cal?
Why do we trust Cal? That's right. We trust Cal because he alleges to have known her mom, and also because he values her. He shows her value in a way that she's never seen it before, and this is before she meets Aurora, who values her for real. So she doesn't immediately know... like instinctively, this isn't what love feels like. This isn't what esteem feels like, because it's the first little morsel of respect that she's ever gotten. And also because she sees herself in him. Because he is trapped. And he is ugly from the curse. He's been in darkness for so long. And she projects herself onto him. And when he says that he knows who her mom was, she's like, oh, tell me more. I need to know who I am. I need to know why I'm so sad and angry. What happened to me to put me in this position where I have been tortured for my magic. I have been disrespected and, shown a lot of prejudice every time I leave my house. Like, I need to know why this is this way. And he's also dangling the promise of more power. I agree is very intoxicating
with everything you said again.
Well, it's because I'm always right.
In this
kidding.
instance. I also think it was because he was the first to be like, no, you're being told false histories here. Your history is amazing.
Yeah.
You and your people are amazing. And you don't even realize the strength and the power you have. And so, yeah, definitely was dangling the more power and all of that. So it was easy for her to find him as a comfort and a source to go to when she was in struggling.
And it's a very symbolic place. Like it's this rotting, decaying tower on the wild sea cliffs, and so she's outside of the city. She's outside of her like place of imprisonment when she feels a little bit more free to learn more things. I mean, it's very symbolic. The same thing happened in the Scarlet Letter when they would go off into the woods and talk, and they're away from society. Whatever, it's a thing. But it feels that way. Yeah.
I also think we need to say he needs her.
Of course he does.
And she likes that.
She loves to be needed.
She wants to be able to be. I mean,
she wants to prove herself
to be good.
That she's good. Yeah, she wants to not be a monster.
Right, because that's what she's told over and over again.
And that her magic can only lead to death, destruction, harm,
curses. Yeah,
curses.
Yeah. She's
her
always
magic
doing their dirty work. Like they always call her to do everything that's too hard and too ugly, and they force it all upon her. To do it.
She's the one who makes people be ugly if they want to slip an elixir to their enemy. Yeah. So she makes all these elixirs that like cause warts or people to like have a ugly laugh or something.
Or fall when they're dancing.
And it's so petty. She is the vehicle for the pettiness of the entire upper class. And so of course she wants to help and do something good for once.
And it's not even stopping there. They actually call her to make like euthanize, I guess, sicker.
Yeah, she is the sole agent of euthanasia. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the things they put on this girl is just amazing.
Yeah, she's done their dirty work for her entire life.
Her whole life. As well as being told how horrible and monstrous she is.
Right.
Yeah. So needless to say, I see where you thought there are some really hard topics in here and some hurtful moments.
Yeah. It's a lot, y'all. Okay. But it's good. So, you should read it.
My question is, did you trust Cal?
Okay, so I need to confess something.
Yes.
First I did not trust him. Then I did trust him for like a little bit. And then I kind of flipped through and I happened to see his betrayal scene. So then I obviously didn't trust him. So I'm sorry. That's a bad answer.
Thank you for your honesty.
You're welcome. I confess. Please absolve me.
Never trusted him.
Never? Okay.
No, because it was like, you found this dude in a tower. Why is he trapped in a tower?
So, in summary, you should not trust cursed people you find in enchanted towers.
I really feel like that's the takeaway from this book.
Especially if they're decaying, I guess.
So, no, I didn't trust him. And I also didn't trust the other betrayal. Did you trust? Can we talk about that? And we kind of have to, like...
Okay, so she was also betrayed by Laurel, the wisdom Grace, who lived in her house. She turns out to have been a spy all along for the Aretherian or Fae ambassador to the queendom, whatever. And no, I never once trusted her.
You knew it was her that was like doing all the
spying,
letting the kings, because she eventually starts working for the king to curse his. Oh God, that was horrible.
Yeah,
that was a horrible scene.
That was pretty horrifying. Let's not talk about
that. But eventually, she starts working for the king again, doing his dirty work by cursing things so that people go blind suddenly, or She wanted eventually a brooch that would kill them when they put it on, but she put him into a deep sleep instead. Because she couldn't do any more when she realized the weapon he was making her to become.
She was like, I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah. So no, I was not surprised with Laurel either, which really was sad because I was like, you need a friend, but they were not them.
Yeah, Alice is betrayed and exploited by everyone she knows except Aurora, and she is not able to have a decent connection with Aurora because of all the damage that's been done to her.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's so there is that sadness of like, gosh, this girlfriend has no allies anywhere, and the allies she thinks she has are all lying to her and exploiting her and using her. And that's a theme throughout the book of people being exploited, and their complicity in their own exploitation or not. Like, I really like how every time it seems like Alice is complicit in her own exploitation, that gets sorted out of like, no, you didn't have a choice to do this, not really. But then there are also these nuanced moments where Alice does consider, what choices do I want to make? What kind of person do I want to be? And she has these warring things of, I want to be good and do good things in the world, but also I'm so stinking angry and I want to be as villainous as they think I am because I have the power to be. And I want them to see that and be scared of me the way I have been scared of them, and it's so valid.
And I also feel it's fine. You think I'm a villain, then I'm going to become that villain.
Yeah, fine.
Sure. You keep telling me this, so let me show you really the villain I am.
Yeah, because they all underestimate her power.
Oh my gosh,
all of them. She's incredibly powerful, and they all underestimate her.
Yeah.
And there were so many times where I thought, girlfriend, why don't you just kill the king right now? I know you could.
Okay. Can we say, like, there is even one moment where she starts to do that, and I
honestly was like, finally, I figured she'd have done it like a long time ago.
I was like, this can end here.
It could have ended there. And Aurora was like, no, don't kill my dad. And I'm like, God. Aurora, honey, no.
Yeah, like,
just kill him.
Everything that comes after this, all I was thinking was, you should have just done it.
Yeah,
because
true.
Nothing else then would have happened after this. Because
it gets real after, and I think that's so great to point in on that, because plot wise, the whole book gets real really fast.
Yeah,
when she makes that choice to not kill the king
for Aurora, and
she doesn't really meditate on that, but I think that it's very obviously part of her mental calculus of no more, and every time anything else gets taken away from her, like Aurora's memory of her gets taken away from her potentially, and she's like, no more, I am through, I have had it, and I am not being merciful anymore. But that also might be influenced by the friend that she picks up internally.
The friend.
Do you want to talk about that?
I think we need to talk about that next, because
okay, so part of Cal's betrayal of her is,
okay, so he has, with his chains, he has this, like, brooch thing.
It's like amulet thing.
Yeah, that is, like, swirling, whatever. And so she thinks, she keeps talking about swirling.
Swirling amulets are sketchy. Beware of them.
So Alice initially thinks that this is the part that's cursing him and keeping him captive.
Yeah,
it's all centered right here. It's very clearly the magic.
Yeah.
However, it's not. And he throws this on the ground after she frees him from all the shadowy chains, and like the spirit of the original Vila comes out of the amulet and into Alice, and this person,
the original Vila who cursed the royal family.
Exactly what I was just gonna say.
Sorry,
it's the person who has.
I should trust you.
It's all good, friend. Is going to who put the initial curse on Aurora's heritage and everything, with all the hatred of whatever she wanted. We don't really know that still, do we?
It's murky. There are some explanations, but it's
now the funny part of this. I don't know what a funny
I'm
part.
Like, none of it's funny.
Oh, there is though. So Cal thinks.
I loved this part, by the way.
We're soulmates. It's fine.
So Cal was lovers with the original Vila sorceress who cursed the line and was like, set free my lover, we will take over the world.
Yeah.
And then she possesses, or not possesses, but she kind of like goes inside of Alice and is like coexisting in there in a weak kind of manner. But but Alice can hear her thoughts, and she says to Alice, what?
Oh, I don't know the exact line.
We do not need him.
Oh, that was so good. How did I forget that?
And Alice, and Cal is the first person that Alice kills in the story. Yeah. Gone.
That moment felt really great.
It felt so good.
The others less great.
Because
and she kind of gets a little murdery after that.
Okay, so if anybody has seen or is familiar with the final episode of Game of Thrones, where Daenerys Targaryen goes a little crazy with her dragons, just imagine that Daenerys is the dragon, and then you have the ending of this book.
That was perfect.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That was a perfect ending. Yes, that was. Yep. And now we're done.
That's it. I was like, oh, it got really real. But that's the thing that I was alluding to when we started about this whole plot line, is that Alice was bitter and angry and wanted vengeance throughout the entire story. But it wasn't this like really obvious and tired battle between good and evil in her soul. It wasn't silly like that. But she was wanting to be good and make good things happen for the kingdom, the queendom, and herself, and for Aurora, mostly for herself and for Aurora. But she had this bitterness, and she had this, like, I so want to be the villain that they think I am, and she's powerful enough to be. But then when this really ancient evil, like seriously evil Vila goes inside of her, she has access to that more powerful Vila's dark magic. And after that point, she really snaps and goes on this epic killing spree, is all that we can say, and this epic magic making spree where she makes this cage for Aurora, which is super symbolic. We can get back to that. And it's like, it's not really said explicitly, but you have to wonder, is this prompted by the person who's inside of her, or is it purely Alice? And I love the way the author did it because it plays into everything Alice was feeling before. So it still feels emotionally honest. It does not feel like a possession, but it's also like not a good thing that this evil ancient sorceress is occupying her body. Yeah, that's probably not great and not something I would really want to have happen to me.
But she definitely was like there going, yeah, that's fine, Alice. You do that.
Yeah, and
it's okay, Alice.
She's like, oh, my pet. She calls her my pet, and
I'm
like,
can we talk about
yet
pet?
Again? She's being exploited by someone.
Yes.
It's so Alice in this book is never for once free. Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
It's all good.
Okay.
I have 2 points. 1, there's always this little voice in the back of Alice's head that's like talking to us. Do you all?
Oh, throughout the book?
Yes. Have you thought that was actually the ancient Villa talking to her all along? Because she does, like, at one point conjure her, and it's kind of after that point that this voice starts popping into her head.
Is it really? Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that part.
At least I thought that's what I thought. I'd have to really go back and study.
I mean, I don't know. There is a lot of overlap between the negative self-talk voice in her head and then the evil sorceress who occupies her. So that makes sense to me.
And I'm only bringing it up because there are certain parts that were italicized. And there wasn't just her normal voice. Anyway, I was just like,
That's a really interesting thought.
Have you been here all along?
I didn't notice. I didn't notice that. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I could be totally wrong too. And then my other thing was, the word pet. Oh my gosh, is that used a lot? Everybody is calling her their pets, or someone is a pet, and it really drove me crazy.
That's fair.
Really drove me crazy.
I think it was supposed to.
Okay, good. And it really, that last one with her calling her a pet, really.
Yeah. What shall we call you, my pet? And she changes her name at the end.
Yes.
And totally unrelated to the main point of what we're talking about, but I really like it when the first part of a book, like the opening pages, mirror the closing pages. I feel respected as a reader by the author, because the author is trying to make something beautiful and cohesive. And there is that. I went back to check, like, wait, does the first page talk about her name? It totally does.
Yep.
Did you look at that?
I didn't look back, but I do love it when they're like full circle.
Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have time for one last little tangent. Did you want to talk about the cage with Aurora?
I mean, I do. Do you?
Yeah, we totally can.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay. Specifically, do we want to be? Well, I mean, she puts her into this thorn cage.
Aurora is asleep. To be fair, she's not like, let me out. She's in an enchanted sleep because it is Sleeping Beauty.
And it broke my heart when she's like, I'm going to put you in here and so that you can wake up and remember who I am. And I can be your true love again, even if that takes 100 years.
Yeah, because the way that is so heartbreaking. So the way that Aurora is cursed is that she is in an enchanted sleep, and she can only be awakened by a male suitor that is chosen for her by the royal family, which might be hard if the king is dead. And
stinking king, he's not yet.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, and then when she wakes up, she will have no memory of Alice, her true love, who broke the curse, by the way.
Okay, we didn't talk about that.
Alice broke her. We all saw it coming. It's fine.
Yeah.
And she will not remember Alice except to see her as a threat.
Yes.
So she's in this enchanted sleep, and so the way Alice phrases it is, I'm going to put her in this cage, and she makes it full of like spikes that are poisoned, so you can't even really touch the cage. And I'm going to put her in this cage to keep herself from anyone coming to claim her as their own.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, though, because at the end of the day, though, Aurora's in a cage, and she put her there.
Yep.
And Alice hasn't been free this entire book, and she just did it symbolically to Aurora.
To someone else.
And I don't know what you think about that.
I kind of thought, oh, Alice, I think we've lost you. Like, I think her intention is good, but now that she's going down a path that is, the intention is good, but she is no longer able to do it in a good way.
Like, if and when Aurora can wake up, is Alice going to be someone that Aurora will still want if she becomes this person?
And I don't know the answer to that. And I mean, I know she's trying to protect her, but is this the way to do it? Like, how would she feel in reverse? And I just feel like this was, to me, a turning point for the character Alice is going to become. Sure. What did you think?
No, I definitely thought it was. I did not think it was the point of no return.
No.
But I did feel, like, heartbroken by it. But not in a way that made me not want to read the sequel. In a way that made me, like, need the sequel right now.
Because you want to see it not be the point of no return.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so on that note, what would you need a sequel? What notes would you need a sequel to hit for you to feel like, okay, they've told this story that needs to be told?
Okay.
What needs to happen for
they
Alice?
Need to get rid of these light fairies.
So just destroy an entire race. Okay.
No, maybe not quite genocide.
Okay, maybe you should rephrase that, because that's exactly what it sounded like.
They just need to come to a better understanding all these realms, and to find a way to coexist together, and where we're not, like, villainizing any one society.
It sounds like a pipe dream, but okay.
Oh, totes. You asked what I'm gonna need.
Sure. Okay, fair. That's fair.
And then obviously Aurora and Alice have to end up together.
Okay.
Obviously. So
I think also the sequel, it's a duology, so there's only one sequel. Alice will need to not be possessed by an evil sorceress. I feel like that's, like, really high on the agenda for me.
I think they could be really good friends. I don't know. I'm undecided.
I don't know. No. And I think also I really hope that there's a character who comes alongside Alice in a way that offers that wisdom and that perspective and that healing, but that she doesn't need, and who doesn't need her.
Who's just a friend.
Yeah. And I'm glad that she's changing locations. She's going somewhere else at the end of the book. She's flying away because she's a dragon.
Change of location is a good thing.
And I hope that she meets someone there who does not need her, but who is still helpful to her, because she needs to do a little bit of healing before she can be with Aurora and have it matter.
Yep.
Yeah,
no, I completely agree with that. And I hope we do get a character like that for us as well.
Yeah,
because I feel like I need that now.
She hasn't had any friends or allies or anybody except Aurora, who is now in an enchanted sleep and might forget her forever.
Yeah,
so,
and
like,
even that was...
She needs, like a team.
Yeah, she needs a team, like an equal, like, partnership team.
She really does. And I don't know if she's going to get it.
I don't either.
We have high hopes, and the sequel better not disappoint us.
Yeah. In a few months.
Or else I might turn into a dragon and destroy everything in sight.
It's cool. I'm going to become a villain.
That's right. You will, for sure.
Totally. Any last thoughts before we end this?
Read it.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's really good.
I really enjoyed it, and as a debut, I thought it was a really well done debut.
I was surprised, honestly, and it makes me very hopeful for reading more from the same author. What's her name?
Heather Walter.
Heather Walter. Because if this is how solid her debut is, and she's only going to get better, I'm pretty excited.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good, and I like I said, I like the emotional honesty in the book. I think that holds the entire fantastical, twisty, turny story together.
Yep.
And that's not something that an author really loses, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good too. So next Friday, I'll be joined with Trisha, and we are going to be discussing A Good Marriage by Kimberly McWright. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot her first name. And I apologize, I don't have a book cover, but we will have one next week. So we are going back to psychological thrillers. So that should be a fun and different pace. So yeah, check in next week. All right. Bye.
Bye.